Okay, we're going to make a start. Kia ora koutou, Cornick Morris on the home. I am the founding director at Kowtow Consulting. We're a sustainability consultancy with the purpose of transforming our world to thrive through working with businesses to evolve them for the sustainable future. This webinar is about sustainability strategies. We're going to talk to you about what is a sustainability strategy, what it isn't, why have one. I'm going to talk about the development process and what's involved in producing a quality and robust sustainability strategy, and then the implementation of the strategy. The strategy without implementation is just words on a page, so that's a very critical part of the whole equation. And then we're going to finish this chat with a conversation with Tessa Bradley from Kowtow, who we're very grateful to have joined with us. So before we do go any further, we're going to have two polls just to get a sense of who's on the call and sort of some of the challenges that you're facing around strategy development or you're thinking around strategy development at this point. So they should pop up in a second. So yeah, first poll is, what are your motivations for developing a sustainability strategy? We're assuming that there's some motivation, that's why you're on this call. Is it about having a structured way of managing sustainability, identify risks and opportunities? Is it about communication? Is it for brand and marketing? Is it about setting measurable goals and targets and tracking your progress? Is it about retaining and attracting talent? Or is it because your stakeholders are asking for it? Maybe it's your staff, maybe it's your customers, maybe it's investors. Cool. Let's give that another few seconds. We're sitting at 86% are saying it's about setting measurable goals and targets. 71% talk about it, but saying it's about having a structured way of managing sustainability. Yeah, cool. Okay. We'll share these poll results so you can have a wee look yourself. That should pop up there for you. And now we're going to do a second poll. It should pop up too, about sort of the challenges really in developing a strategy, the barriers and challenges. What do you perceive as the biggest barriers or challenges to developing a sustainability strategy? Click all that apply. So yeah, is it time and resources? Is it knowledge and expertise or a lack of that? Is it just not knowing where to start, getting a bit overwhelmed or confused by sustainability? Is it the perceived cost of it? Is it about the current mindsets within your organisation? Is it that it's just in conflict with your business strategy? Advise that you've already looked at your business strategy? Or is that you've just got other focus areas at the moment? Cool. More seconds. All right, we'll hand that one and share the results for you to have a look at as well. So yeah, 71% talking about it being a time and resource concern, and it does take time and resource. There's no hiding from that, and we'll explain a bit about that in the process in a minute. Yep, knowledge and expertise. It can be challenging to get your head around all things that are related to sustainability. Hopefully, we'll give you some today's sort of webinar will give you some clarity on that. Hopefully. Okay, great. Moving on, just a quick bit about us. I gave you our purpose and mission previously, but yeah, we're about working with businesses to make this sustainable future happen. We really like working with businesses like Kowtow, who we're going to talk to today, who have got a similar ethos and values. And it's an exciting time to be alive, right? Some real big challenges out there around climate change and biodiversity loss, plastic pollution, inequalities, mental health, the list can go on and on. But putting it on a positive note, it's some really exciting things that are happening, and I think it just makes business so much more enjoyable and fulfilling when you're trying to do business that solves problems and makes lives better and makes the world a better place. Look, our services, you can kind of read them yourselves there, but we kind of cover a whole lot of specialties around sustainability, from carbon mapping and reducing emissions through to your supply chain, through to reporting, and obviously with strategies like we're going to be talking to today. So what is a sustainability strategy? It's a formal document that sets out specific, measurable and time-bound goals to improve a business's sustainability performance. You might also hear it referred to as a plan or a roadmap. But yeah, a good sustainability strategy, there are some bad ones out there, but it's about having smart targets. And so you've probably heard that acronym many times. We use the version that we first saw in a fantastic book called Net Positive, which I highly recommend you read. And so specific and measurable stay the same, but then we talk about aspirational, results-driven and timely. Okay, so the key really is that specific, measurable and timely. So be really clear on the targets you're setting. How can you measure success of achieving those targets or not? And then when are they going to be achieved by? Not just we'll be carbon zero one day, but by when, and how you're going to measure that, and be really specific. And then it really aligns again with our values and ethos around it being aspirational. We need businesses to be aspirational, courageous, brave, to really step up to these challenges we're facing and make really positive changes. And results driven, really we want to see impact, we want to see things changing, not just talk, not just words on a page. A good sustainability strategy should also include well thought out action plan with those required micro steps. So e.g. if your goal is to become a carbon zero organisation by 2025, then how are you going to get there? What are those micro steps that you need to do to get there? So for that example, it's about mapping your footprint first and foremost, identifying where the emissions are coming from, setting a reduction plan, engaging your team, and working through and achieving that and measuring it again. So really important that you have those micro steps in the action plan to go with it. And it's also important that it clearly communicates your vision and intent for the future. What are you trying to where are you trying to get to? Yes, sustainability is a journey, it's about changing, but there's also a destination, right? If we want to sustain life on this planet, we have to live in harmony with the real world or the natural world, or nature, some people might refer to it. So we have to have an economic system, we have to have business models that operate in harmony with the laws of the real world that we can't change. So really, we work with all our clients to push towards achieving becoming a circular business with regenerative impact. So you're actually helping restore and fix the problems that we've inherited, right? Getting plastics out of the ocean, getting carbon out of the atmosphere, getting plastics out of our food chain, improving inequality, improving people's health and well-being. So have a sense of where you're trying to get to with this, with your strategy, and I highly recommend that it is about becoming a circular, regenerative and inclusive organisation. Why have a sustainability strategy? It's 2023, baby. It's I laugh, but if you're not addressing sustainability and your sustainability performance as a business, you're going to get left behind. It's pretty straightforward. There's a lot of pressures coming from lots of different angles, I guess, from legislation, from customers, from your staff, from competitors, from future staff. It really is a big push and a big move. And we're biased, we work in this space, but we see it all the time, right? We're pretty up to date with the changes we're seeing, and the reports that are coming out on consumers wanting businesses to take this stuff seriously. And it's pretty emphatic that there's a big shift happening, not just here in New Zealand, but globally. And so developing a sustainability strategy will give you an opportunity as an organisation just to pause and stop. And this is, time and resource, but it's really important that you take this time to just stop and understand the current lay of the land, what is going on in the New Zealand economy, what is going on in the global economy and other economies that you might participate in around the world. What's happening? What's this transformation going on? And really, it is. We have to make huge changes to how we manage our economies and our businesses, and we have to decarbonise, and we have to get to the circular system really rapidly. The science around this is pretty straightforward, and it's very convincing, or not convincing, it's emphatic. That if we don't get emissions down, then the climate's going to heat up, and it's going to change into a world that we can't sustain modern life in. So you need to understand that as an organisation. You need to understand the impacts that you're having as a business, and you need to understand the impacts that your industry is having. And then you need to set a plan and land on the role that you want to play in this transformation. Are you going to be a industry leader and really pushing the boundaries and trying new things, or are you going to be a bit of a fast follower, or are you going to be somewhere a bit behind that? Don't be too behind that, please. We need change rapidly, and we need it at scale, and we need it now. Developing a strategy will help you identify risks and opportunities. Sustainability risks are business risks, right? The climate changing, and that impacts supply chains, that impacts people's perception of your organisation. So by developing this strategy and having developing a sustainability strategy and really looking into your business and pairing it up against all the various sustainability risks will put your organisation in a much stronger position, right? Excuse my language, but it's about sort of getting your shit together as an organisation. A strategy will allow you to measure progress and drive performance and make informed business decisions. It'll help you put all this stuff down into sort of one page or a few pages, one document at least, your thinking and your the various initiatives that you might have going on in your organisation all down into one place, and make sure that your organisation is all singing from the same hymn sheet and working together on this. It's critical for communicating your sustainability journey. We're doing another webinar in a month's time around communicating sustainability. We'll go into this in a bit more detail, but if you're going to go out and talk about sustainability, you've got to have a robust plan underneath it all, because people will ask questions, and greenwashing is done on purpose, but it's also done accidentally because people haven't done the deep thinking and they haven't landed on what role they want to play and understood what impacts they have, and sort of done the work to understand sustainability in detail, and they go out and make statements or comments and can't back it up. So the sustainability strategy forms that foundational level of your communications or your sustainability communications plan. Helps you engage and collaborate with internal and external stakeholders. You can't do this on your own. Okay, it's one of the big things. We have to work with all the clients, or explain to all the clients we work with. Yes, get your own house in order, and yes, do as much as you can in terms of making your own footprint and sorting out your own diversity and inclusion, and sorting out your own health and well-being within your organisation. But there's so much that you just can't do on your own. You need to work with your suppliers, you need to work with your freight forwarders, you need to work with your staff, your investors, you need to work with government, you need to work with other people in your industry. We try and help businesses get away from this competitive nature of thinking to, by using the word industry peers. Surely, yes, we can compete on price and customer experience and taste of your products versus another one, but surely we're not competing on, ensuring we've got a planet that we can all live on. So really challenge you as an organisation to try and reach out to your industry peers and build relationships there and work together on these integrated problems. A strategy will help you demonstrate competent business, provide you accountability, and will build trust and reputation in your brand. As I sort of said earlier, there's pretty emphatic evidence that customers are wanting this and other businesses are wanting this. And so by having a strategy, doing this work and getting yourselves on a journey with a sense of direction will really help you in terms of the trust and reputation of being a business in the 21st century. And it will provide you leadership within your industry and help you to influence those peers, as I was sort of alluding to before. You want to have relationships there, but also, even if you're not, got a collaborative kind of relationship with your industry peers, they can at least see that, hey, this organisation our industry peer, is making changes and is implementing positive steps, we should do that too, or we'll get left behind. So there is that aspect of influence that we always talk about with our clients. You've got the things you can control and work on those and do the best you can and do everything you can control. And then the stuff that's out of your control, how can you influence that? And think about, as an organisation, as a brand, how much you want to influence topics and issues that might sit outside your lane, so to speak, right? So I think most people on this call will be familiar with Patagonia as a brand, and they're just a great example of an organisation that speaks out about big issues that align with or confront or challenge their values. And so, we want and we need businesses speaking up and speaking out on some big topics. And I don't think there's enough of that anywhere near enough of that in the New Zealand context, for sure. Everyone likes to sort of just keep their heads down and doesn't like pointing fingers too much, which I understand, but also it's really clear we've got to stop burning fossil fuels. We've got to stop putting plastics in the ocean and polluting our environment and degrading our soils. And so if we find that that's happening, or if we see greenwashing that's happening, we should be calling that out as a business community and saying that's just not acceptable. So yeah, I think I'd love to see that on the site, no more of that happening in New Zealand, but it doesn't have to be that direct. It can just be more influencing, more subtly through the things you do yourself, I guess. So our strategy development process, so just a quick sort of infographic here that you can find on our website as well, that is the process that we've developed. There's different ways of doing strategies and sustainability strategies, but this is what we've created and it works really, really well for us and the clients we work with. So I'll just take you through that top line first, the 1 through to 5. So it's about, we'll go through your business with a bit of a fine-tooth comb and really get to know it and understand how you operate, what history is, what your business strategy is, what your brand voice is, etc., etc. And we'll also do a lot of work in researching your industry, especially if it's a new industry for us. Then we go through a process of taking your organisation through a workshop that helps you understand what the science is telling us. Okay, so the hard part of our job is having to read the science and understand the science around climate change and biodiversity crisis and plastics in our food chain, and on the list goes, pollution, chemical pollution, etc. It's really confronting and it's really bad, and it's probably far worse than you understand. And so we have to find a way to try and communicate that to businesses to make them understand the urgency here. And so in that workshop we'll present that science to you, and we've really much got an attitude of, if you want to solve problems, you have to face up to them, right? You have to be really honest about them. So that's sort of the approach we take in this workshop, and then we'll help you as an organisation based on the research we've done and our knowledge of your organisation and your industry. We'll work with you to map out what your key impacts or what your material impacts are. Most businesses sort of land around 8, 10, 12 impacts. There's some pretty obvious ones, your emissions, the health and well-being of your staff, packaging if you've got products, and we'll help you work out what those key impact areas are. And then we'll go and draft up your sustainability strategy. And so for each one of those impacts that we've identified and agreed with you that you should be focusing on, we'll set you a high-level goal, again using the emissions example. It might be to become a carbon zero business by 2025, or better than that. It's not about becoming carbon zero, it's about reducing your emissions. Really focus on reducing rather than offsetting. So a more robust goal would be something like reduce your emissions by 20% by 2025. Okay, so we set you that kind of high-level goal. Maybe you might have an impact area being diversity and inclusion. The goal might be increase our diversity of women in our leadership team by 20%, something like that. So it's this high-level goal. We then come back, also underneath each one of those goals, we'll have these targets. So that's that sort of action plan. So there's really specific and measurable targets to get you there. So I gave that example earlier about your emissions. So map them, identify where your emissions are coming from, engage with your staff, identify how to reduce it, create a reduction plan, and implement that reduction plan. And that might take you sort of 3 years to get there before you finally make that reduction and whether or not you offset your unavoidable emissions. And so, yeah, for every impact area we've identified, we set that high-level goal, and then those smaller specific targets or that action plan to get there. We then put that draft back in front of the client, and we sit down with them with a red pen, and hopefully it's just tick, tick, tick. There's always a bit of negotiation backwards and forwards around the targets and that action plan, because we, as much as we'll get to know an organisation we're working with, we don't know their capacity or their workload. So they might say, hey, look, yes, we want to achieve that 20% reduction in our emissions, but we just don't think that's possible in the next 3 years. It needs to be for the 4th year, or hey, we could do that, quicker. Let's do that in 2 years. So there's a process there where we sit down with the organisation and work through those targets and make sure that it hits that right balance of being aspirational and achievable. And then the strategy is finished and signed off and put out there. And we highly recommend to all our clients that you publish it, put it out there, make yourself accountable, and be authentic and transparent about it. And it's a really important point, I think, to make, that this is really hard. We've inherited an economic system that is not sustainable, and we have to try and maintain people's quality of life and expectations around the goods and services they kind of receive, while living within the laws of the real world and the boundaries of our planet. And it's a really hard transformation to make. So don't fret about putting your strategy out there and not being perfect. And people will throw mud at whatever you put out there. So it's about saying, hey, we've done the work, we've identified our impacts, we've landed on the role we want to play, we understand how aspirational we want to be, and these are the goals that we've set, and this is our plan to get there, and we will update you as we go, and we'll share our progress. And so, yeah, that's very much the approach we recommend taking. And then in terms of sharing your progress, you can do that, throughout the year through your various communications channels, but we would recommend an annual progress report that just basically says, hey, these were our goals, this is what we achieved, this is what we didn't achieve, this is why not, and just explain how you went. Now, just to those 2 boxes underneath there, those add-ons. So we just do this at Kowtow to try and make our strategy writing process accessible to different size businesses and budgets. So that first piece, that stakeholder engagement, is really valuable to help us understand what your stakeholders are expecting of you, what their perceptions are of your organisation, really what they're doing in the space, what are they doing to reduce emissions, what are they doing to regenerate biodiversity, what are they doing to help improve the mental health crisis that we've got. So by doing that stakeholder engagement, we'll go out, we'll help you map out who your stakeholders are and how you want to engage with them. Will you send out just a survey that, it's cheap and quick, but it's not a great level of feedback, versus an interview where you can sit down with someone one-on-one and have these, follow-up questions and back and forth kind of conversation, a far deeper and more rich level of feedback. But it's costly and it takes time, right? So we help you develop that plan, and then we go out and we'll do that stakeholder engagement piece. And it's a really valuable thing to do in its own right. Just talking to your stakeholders about sustainability in the 21st century is a highly recommended thing to do. But yeah, it really helps feed into the strategy and helps us understand how to structure that strategy, whether you've got a supplier that's really progressive and really keen and aligned on these kind of goals, well, then we can probably push a bit harder in that part of the strategy, versus perhaps a supplier that's a bit behind the times. And so we need to make it a little bit easier perhaps in that part of the strategy. So that's a stakeholder engagement. It's an add-on you can or can't do. And then we've got the communications plan that I've sort of talked to already. But yeah, your strategy, to be credible and robust, has got to have that kind of smart, specific language: reduce our emissions by 25% versus our baseline by 2023, whatever. That'll go over a lot of people's heads though, right? So how do you bridge that gap between a robust and really well-written sustainability strategy with those smart targets and goals, then get it to your stakeholders so they understand it? And so that's where our communications plans come in. And again, that's an add-on, and yeah, keep an eye out for our next webinar where we talk to that in more detail. There's a lot of sustainability frameworks out there. we've kind of landed on these 5 that we reference a lot and influence a lot of our thinking and the strategies that we write. Just quickly, you've got the SDGs, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, top left there. Top right is the butterfly diagram from the MacArthur Foundation. It's showing the flows of materials through our economy. You've got on the right-hand side your technical or synthetic materials, on the left-hand side your natural or biochemical feedstocks, the language they use. B Corp, I think most people know about that, is a really good certification, but it's not for everyone. A bit of a cheat for those who perhaps don't have the budget for getting consultants like us to help with your sustainability strategy. Use the B Corp tool. It's a free tool, the BIA tool, and use that as a guide, and it will help you develop your own sort of strategy doing that. It doesn't help you think sort of about the bigger picture and the sort of final destination, which, yeah, but hey, it is a free tool, and yeah, it's there to use. Donut economics, there in the middle. I'll come back to that. Just on the bottom right there is the planetary boundaries. So globally recognised, there's 9 environmental boundaries, or planetary boundaries, or environmental sustainability issues or risks that we have to be mindful of. I'll leave you to sort of read those in your own time, or highly recommend Breaking Boundaries. It's a documentary about the planetary boundaries on Netflix. You can probably get it elsewhere, but yeah, really good watching, pretty hard hitting, but really explains the science well. Coming back to the data economics, it's got those around the outside again, those 9 planetary boundaries that we have to stay within, the kind of the laws of the real world, I guess, as I call it, and then the internal circle there is the social foundations that we have to provide all human beings. And so it's about providing everyone those social foundations without overshooting those planetary boundaries. And it looks a bit like a donut, hence the name. So anyway, those are some frameworks that if you want to know a bit more about, or learn a bit more about sustainability, recommend that you dive into. Cool, that's enough of listening to me rattle on. Now we're going to have Tessa Bradley from Kowtow join us. So just bear with me while I stop share and bring her into the conversation. Hey Tessa, you should be getting there you go. Hello.
Hello.
Sure.
I'm here.
Yes, that worked out perfectly. There's always a little bit of fear that this is all going to go wrong, but thank you.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Should I just start with a little bit of an introduction?
Yes, yeah. Can you just tell us a little bit about who you are and maybe a quick bit about Kowtow as well?
Yeah. So yeah, my name is Tessa. I am the head of supply chain sustainability at Kowtow. I was originally the production manager for, I think it was 5 or 6 years. And when we just started doing this sustainability strategy process, we recognized that we needed to create a role that could really help drive the strategy. We're a fashion brand based in Wellington, and we were founded by Gosha Piontek in 2016, and we design and produce 100% fair trade organic cotton clothing. We manufacture in India, and our entire supply chain is certified from seed to garment. We started our strategy stakeholder engagement in 2021 with Go Well, and we completed our first year in 2022 with 50 of our 79 goals achieved, with a further 12 in progress, and anything that wasn't achieved or was in progress has been carried over into this year. We've published our full sustainability strategy on the website alongside with our 2022 impact report. So I would thoroughly recommend that you all please go and check it out.
There's lots of work in there, wasn't there, Tessa? So yeah. Oh, really good. Hey, well, thank you. Before we go on, I just want to quickly prompt everyone, if you've got questions for myself or Tessa, please use the Q&A function here, and we'll ask those questions in a few minutes' time. But Tess, tell us, please, how a sustainability strategy has impacted Kowtow?
So our sustainability strategy has impacted Kowtow greatly because we'd been following these sustainability principles and our purpose for 16 years, but we'd never really had, we hadn't really been recording what we're doing or measuring or strategizing on any of it. And the sustainability strategy creates a shared sense of the company's mission, helping everyone in the business to understand what we're working towards. It also provided real parameters to the decisions that we're making across the business. And if there's always going to be circumstances that crop up that you don't expect, but we use the framework to navigate those situations, and anything that doesn't fit within that strategy it's either discarded or it's a lot of careful consideration is really put into those sorts of things. And
I just wanted to reflect on, you sort of mentioned it there and right at the start of your intro around the progress and the transparency that you've got around your progress. Did that come quite naturally? Was that quite hard to do as an organisation to share that? What was it, 52 of the 70 targets that you achieved, or there was 20 plus that you didn't achieve? Like, was that hard for you to do? Was that quite a conversation to share that transparency?
Yeah. Do you mean in the sense that sharing it with the wider community, or
being so open about not achieving all your targets?
Unfortunately, we didn't quite get to our full 100% of the goals, but we definitely were touching on every single one of those goals. And we had lots of things that kind of happened throughout the year, which kind of put roadblocks on a lot of our goals. For example, building a whole new, wonderful, beautiful website that we have out now, which meant a lot of our resources were stripped a bit thin for the strategy, because we basically had to put all of our focus into the website. But I still think that I'm really proud of what we achieved.
I can tell you, not a single client we've worked with has achieved 100% of their goals, which I think means that the strategies are the right level of aspirational, right? We really want to push businesses, and coming back, for us, it's really about making this rapid and really big transformational change. And if you've got everyone achieving 100% of their strategies, I think it's a sign that they're too easy, not aspirational enough.
It should be a stretch as well, right? Because it'd just be, if you're putting it all really achievable, then it's just too easy to tick it off. So you need to be thinking further out.
Totally agree. Okay, I want to ask now about the actual process. So that was kind of, we talked a bit about the impact of having the strategy and being completed and working to it and driving decision-making throughout your business. But what about the actual process? Because it probably took, was it about 6 months? It's typically around about a 6-month process that we go through. Like, how did you find the process, and how did the process impact the organisation?
It forced us to agree on a framework to focus our investments and help us to drive our performance. It also made us engage with our internal team and our external stakeholders, so our customers, and to ensure that we were focusing on those areas that they want to see momentum in. So there's things from like plastic waste to our carbon and our circularity goals, and even the waste in our workroom. So it was quite an array of goals from everyone's perspective. And I guess what it forced us to do was make us look inward at what kind of impacts that we also wanted to be making as a business, and look at the impacts that we were wanting to mitigate or put, risk assessments on and action plans against. So it was, I would say it was probably a little bit confronting at times, because we've always been really prided ourselves on the good that we are doing, but it's so much more, so much bigger than what you think there is to it. So it was confronting, but you guys really helped us work through that and really actually face up to those elements and address them in our strategy.
Oh, and do you think that that's been advantageous for you, like, again, moving forward and making decisions now, knowing that you're all kind of had that experience, and so you've all got a similar level of knowledge and understanding that, you know, you're not having to have conversations backwards and forwards, kind of educating someone of why you need to do this. You're already understanding the impacts around, you know, the fashion industry, and so you can just go straight to making decisions. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, we encourage our team to read through the strategy, and I mean, you've been in a lot of our strategy meetings where it's like you do pretty much have half the business in each one of those meetings, and that's to go through all the goals. But then I guess outside of that, it's their everyday work, and, you know, encouraging them to think like, hey, does this fit with the strategy? Is this making an impact on people or the planet? And I guess it is very easy to slip back into old ways, but that's why we continue to have our team meetings, and we talk about the strategy and, you know, our overarching business goals, which are really driven by, you know, leaving the planet better.
Yeah,
so.
It's a critical point that you just touched on there, and I mentioned it a bit in the presentation that, you know, if you don't have the implementation piece, it's just words on a page. And so you guys have done a really great job of committing to that. Is it fortnightly that you do the work in progress meetings?
Yes. Yeah, we have a people team and a planet team.
That's right. You've split it into the two teams, and meet with my colleague Vanessa, who sort of oversees or chairs those meetings and guides you through. And yeah, we see it. It's really obvious too with the clients that we work with, those that set that up and get that governance in place for the implementation versus the ones that don't. You know, it's a really critical point to succeed in implementing your strategy. Make sure you get those regular check-ins and have those conversations, because this stuff is complex and things are changing. Technology, customer demands, you know, price of things, supply chains, it's changing quickly. So it's really important to keep your finger on the pulse as a team. Okay, great. You've talked a little bit about challenges here and there already, but are there any challenges in the development of the strategy that have really stood out for you? Like, was there, talk a bit about being and stuff. Were there any other challenges that you kind of remember?
Yeah, I would say we had like too many ideas. So it was really important that to sort of hone in and focus on the really important stuff. And there are many more years to come. So don't try to kind of like overcommit yourself, I guess. And to prioritize the big stuff first and really listen to your stakeholders and what they want to see, and focus on that. And I guess the other challenge, which is probably a challenge for everyone, is the engagement of your team, and keeping that up. And our jobs are already very full. We're all very, very busy, and so slapping the strategy on top of their business as usual it can be a challenge. And that's, I guess, why they appointed me as the head of supply chain sustainability, just to help drive that and keep people motivated. I would say that's quite a challenge at times because everyone's busy.
Yeah, it is, and it is about, I think, about dividing and conquering, and it is about assigning those targets to other people and giving them that responsibility, and then, like I said, keep checking in. I don't know if you can hear in the background, but Mr. Whippy's just decided to put his tune on, so apologies if there's that background noise. We're about to jump to questions for everybody else. I see there's one in the box, so if there's anyone else has got a question, please fire away. But I just want final question from me, Tessa, is what do you think is the future of sustainability in business?
Well, climate change is a real thing, and we're seeing the effects of it here in New Zealand. Businesses can't and shouldn't be able to function in an unsustainable manner anymore. And I personally think it should be mandatory for businesses to have sustainability strategies as part of their business plans, and also be held accountable to record their impacts. And I guess this allows people to make informed decisions with whether they want to be purchasing from you or working with you or working for you. So yeah, I guess I thoroughly recommend people do a strategy.
Fantastic. Okay, we've just got this one question here. Anonymous attendee. The question is, who drove the entire approach / concept? Was it top down or driven by the sustainability team?
It does need to be driven from the top down because it is related to the overarching business goals. So we started with the top, but like I said, we engaged the entire team. So everyone was part of the stakeholder engagement part of the process. And that really fed up all of the ideas so that we could really hone in on what was important.
Yeah, fantastic. And I just reiterate that, like we always, when we engage with a new client, we always talk to them about having as many senior decision makers as possible there at the start, especially in that kind of that workshop session where we go through the science and we go through their impacts so that they're on board at that point. Because we've had this experience, it's very frustrating and it slows things down a lot when those decision makers aren't on board and they're not engaged or they don't have that baseline knowledge, and so things slow down, they go back up and down. So it's really important that you have the senior decision makers engaged and right at the start. But as you said, it's also super important that the whole business is across this, and outside your business too, those external stakeholders have some input as well.
Yeah, and it's important to be honest and recognize that there's going to be challenges, and things will crop up that you won't expect.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Just as one last question's popped in, and I'll just try and squeeze it in, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
From Colin Stobie, hi Tessa, great to see what you're doing. Do you think there's an option to combine supply chain resources for designers in New Zealand, making use of part containers, etc., for shipping from overseas manufacturers? Yes, question sort of specific to the fashion industry there, but do you think that's a possibility?
Logistically, it's a great idea. Obviously it depends on where your product is being produced and whether you're in the same regions, but I mean, I'm all for other brands collaborating and working together to reduce costs. So if you can make that happen, that's an amazing idea. We sometimes have consolidated our stuff from other factories to get on the one shipment, because that also will help sort of, reduce our impact as well. So, yeah, logistically, if you can make that work, that would be awesome.
Yeah, and look, it's that kind of thinking we need, Colin, and those kind of questions to be asked to your industry peers to kind of work through that kind of stuff. So I think that's a really great question. Look, we're on time, but if we can quickly just, we've got a final question just about this webinar, and if you enjoyed it or not. So hopefully that pops up in a second. And just while that's happening, Tessa, just thank you so much again for your time. I know you're very busy and you've got meetings, I think, with my colleagues in about 15 minutes anyway. So it's a grace of Go Well consulting for you today. But thank you, really appreciate it.
Happy.
Awesome.
It's a pleasure. Great working with Go Well.
Go Well, maybe, yeah.
Go Well.
For everyone who's there on the call, thank you so much for your time and listening in. If you want to talk about sustainability strategies with us, reach out, hello@gowellconsulting.co.nz, or jump on our website and have a look for some more information there. Just this final feedback poll, just how informative you found this. It helps us improve these. And yeah, keep an eye out for our future ones. Our next one is going to be about communicating sustainability confidently and competently. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Have wonderful days. Live sustainably.
Yeah. See ya.